If you just watched the last video, hopefully you are all up to date. Again, the Adobe icon is up here on a Mac. I believe it is down in your taskbar on a PC. I'm just going to launch this and show you that last time we were recording, I did update Photoshop and Bridge, and Adobe Camera Raw automatically updated as part of this kind of suite, if you will. So version 21.2.2 is the version that you should have. And you can open your apps from right here if you'd like, or you can go to your Launchpad on a Mac or your My Computer down here at the start bar on a PC and find your Adobe family of products and find Adobe Photoshop 2020. We're also going to be using Bridge, which is this icon right here, and I'm going to show you, as the book does, how we get to Bridge from Photoshop, but just know that you can launch Bridge alone as a standalone piece of software. It's right here. So go ahead and launch Photoshop 2020, and I'm just going to kind of talk about Photoshop in general. So it's pretty well known thing now. A lot of people use it as a verb. You know, will you Photoshop this for me? Meaning, will you change something, edit something? So the best place to start working with images is going to be in Adobe Bridge, the other app. And what it basically is it's kind of like the My Computer, where you just click on a folder and you open it and you see that there are 5 files in it. And you can either see them by file name or maybe a thumbnail, but the biggest thumbnail you're usually going to get in that kind of a view is maybe, you know, 1 inch by 2 inches, something very small. Bridge takes that to a whole new level. You get a much better preview of images. You can also sort them very much like a database. You can add labels, ratings, keywords. You can look at the metadata. You can group them, make contact sheets, make slideshows, all sorts of things out of Bridge, which makes it really very powerful. And it's something that you're going to be using a lot. So we're going to jump from Bridge to Photoshop and back and forth because Bridge allows us to manage our photos. So at long last, Photoshop has opened. I'm going to wait for my spinning beach ball to catch up with me here. And if you've never used Photoshop before, your page is not going to look like mine. What you see on mine is my most recent documents that I've had open. So, some things of note here. We have the Home tab at the top left, Your Work, Lightroom photos. Maybe you've heard of Adobe Lightroom, something that photographers used very heavily in years past and still do, very much like Photoshop, but at one point it was kind of limited to just being photography editing, meaning you couldn't create something new with layers. They've changed that and you can now, so it's very much like Photoshop. All right, your cloud documents. You can get to things whenever you're signed into Photoshop. They're automatically saved in the cloud and synced for you across all of your devices. So if you do this at school on the Mac or at grandma's on a Mac and you have a Windows computer at home and an iPad at work, if you log into your Adobe account, it doesn't matter what device you're on. Everything is going to show up in the cloud that you put there. All right, I'll say okay to that. And we have Create, New, and Open. What we're going to do here, though, is we're going to actually go to Bridge straight from Photoshop. And like I said, we could just go back down into our Finder, or Launchpad rather, and find it and click on it here. But what we're going to do is just stay in Photoshop, and we're going to do File, and then Browse in Bridge. Option, that's that button on a Mac. Command, that's that button on a Mac. Letter O. So this would be Alt, Control, letter 0 on a PC. If you're working on a PC, whenever you're in any of these menus and there is a shortcut available, the shortcut will be listed right next to it. So in this case, we're looking at Option, Command, letter O, or just click on Open or Browse in Bridge. That's going to then launch Bridge, which is going to take a minute, not terribly long, I'm sure. Notice on a Mac, I can see that Bridge has been activated and it's bouncing down here in my taskbar. And when it is ready, it will stop bouncing and it will have a little black dot underneath it like Photoshop does. So anything with a black dot under it on a Mac is software that you currently have open. The rest are just shortcuts to get to it. So I'm going to pause while we wait for Bridge to open. All right, if you do get this message that pops up saying the Bridge extension called Photoshop has been added to Bridge, do you want to enable it? Just go ahead and say yes to that. And they've also enabled the contact sheet, which is awesome because we used to have to do that manually. So say yes to that as well. A contact sheet, in case you're wondering, is maybe you go out and take pictures, senior pictures, and you have 20 of them. And they're just subtle differences of a smile or whatever. You can make a contact sheet that puts all 20 of those images on one sheet of paper so that your client can look at them and choose the one that they want. So it's basically a printout of all of your pictures. All right, I am in Bridge. This is what the Bridge interface looks like. And something about a Mac, if you're on a PC, this is going to be different, but in a Mac, whatever window you have active, and I know that Adobe Bridge is active because the white bar is up here, whatever you have active, even if it's way down here, that is the menu bar at the top associated with that program, so Adobe Bridge. If I click on Photoshop and make Photoshop my active window, notice that this bar up here changes to be the details for Photoshop. So for now, I'm just going to minimize Photoshop, which on a PC is over here. You know what minimize looks like, I'm sure. And I'm going to come back, and my application window on a Mac, that's this thing. I'm just going to kind of make it a little bit bigger so there's not a lot of confusion here. So this is what Adobe Bridge looks like. It is a visual representation of what is in folders. So on a PC, you have My Computer, and maybe you would see all of these folders, and then you would click into one and click into it, and you'd see all the file names, what they are, etc. So you can see right now that if you follow this breadcrumb trail, I happen to be in something called, in my documents called Personal Projects, Yogoats 2020, and inside this folder are other folders. So if I click on that, it adds that to my breadcrumb trail, and all of my previews show up right here in this window. This is all of the images that are in this folder. Now you might be saying, well, these are small little thumbnails. What's the point? This isn't any better than what I've always used. I'm just going to show you real quickly, and then we'll jump into it in a very detailed way. All of these windows are scalable, so you can make all of these bigger or smaller. And what I like to do is have my content be fairly small, but then if you single click, and it's important that you just single click on an image, it's going to bring it up for you over here. And notice how big that is compared to maybe what you're used to seeing for a preview. These are much, much bigger. So again, we'll get to all this in just a second, but I want you to be aware of the power of this software in showing you images much bigger than you're used to seeing. So for now, we're going to work through this, and I'm actually going to follow through our textbook. And if you are following along in the book, right after the Bridge Workspace, we're going to be going through some files, and I have given you pictures that we're going to use for this in-class demo. So I want you to follow along with this and work with specific photos. The actual textbook is going to walk you through your homework. So starting on page 9, where it says browsing through the files, find the chapter 1 files, that's actually going to be your homework. And I don't want you to just jump ahead and say, I'll figure it out. Please watch this video and understand how we use this. So let's just go through the workspace quickly again. This is our main workspace in Adobe Bridge. And a few things that we have here, excuse me. The main menu is this top part way up here that stays put, that talks about whatever application is open. So up there we have File, Edit, View, Stacks, Label, Window, Tools, and Help. That's our main menu. Our application bar is the next step down in this dark gray. So we see we have a forward and backward. That's much like a web browser. It'll take you to wherever you were most recently within Bridge. And we have several other icons, and typically if you hover over them, you will get a tooltip. But of course, when I'm doing a live demo, that doesn't want to work. We'll be going through each one of these individually, so we'll get there. But this part is called your application bar. The next line down is your path bar, or like your breadcrumbs. So if you're like, where is this image? Oh, I can see. It's on my hard drive, in the users folder, in the admin folder, documents, blah, blah, blah. And you can figure out exactly where it's located. That's the path. Next thing are the different panels. So this is a panel, this is a panel, this is a panel right here. Look at that. I just went to the Photoshop book files. Interesting. Over here is a panel with preview and publish. And then down at the bottom, we have a panel with metadata and keywords. And like I said, all of these panels, if you hover over the line between them, you'll get this double-sided arrow that when you get that, you can hold down your mouse clicker and pull up, down, left, right to reposition this as you'd like. All right. Something I didn't mention back on the application bar, I kind of stopped with these icons. If we go over further, we see essentials, libraries, all of this. These are different workspaces. And depending on what you're doing, it might be more helpful. So Essentials is a default workspace, so it's set up the way you see now. I'll just show you what output looks like by clicking on it and waiting. This is what the output workspace looks like. And you can see this is kind of what I was mentioning with a contact sheet. It's ready to have 4 images put on this page. It's set up as a 2x2 cell, and the paper size is set up. A4 is not what we use. If you ever see that, you probably want to switch back to letter, 8.5 by 11. But these are the details regarding this contact sheet. If I went into the metadata view, it's going to assume that you only want to learn about metadata. And the metadata is specifics about pictures. We're going to get to that in a minute. So let's switch back to Essential. The Essential workspace is where we want to be working. And we're also going to notice that within these panels, sometimes there are more than one tab. So right now we're seeing our favorites. These are things that you will use a lot. Desktop, documents, pictures, downloads, those are probably always there. But we're going to learn in a little bit how to actually put other folders that we often use here. So I have my Photoshop book files dragged in here and some other things. The Folders tab kind of shows you like the My Computer view of what all is located on the desktop. I have that twirled open. What's located on the computer. If you twirl it open, you're going to get more and more and more details. So the favorites is usually the window that we have, the tab that we have open. Down here in this lower panel, we have a filter tab, a collections tab, and an export tab. In our preview panel, most often we're going to be using this, I'll just show you, to preview an image. But there is also a tab for publish, and you can publish the files to your portfolio through Adobe, or if you want to contribute to Adobe Stock, meaning the stock photography program that they have, that's how you could go about it. I'd say 9.9 times out of 10, we're going to be in this preview tab. And then down at the bottom, the metadata, which is all the information about this specific photo. So I'm just going to pull up something from Yogoats again so I can show you. So this particular photo, if I make this bottom part bigger, the metadata shows me all the details that the camera was set to when this photo was taken. And in this case, it was actually my iPhone. It wasn't a camera. So down here you can see it was the iPhone 11 back dual wide camera that took this. But we get some very important information like the f-stop, the shutter speed, what ISO, and how physically big this file is. 3000 pixels by 4000 at 2.43 megs. That's the metadata that comes from the camera or the image that you're looking at. Keywords we're going to work with. These are things that we set up that we can then tag this photo. So I might want to tag this with goats and something else. Let's say Maggie. From now on, this picture has two terms, search terms associated with it. So if later on I did a search and I said, show me all my goat pictures, this one would show up. If I said, show me all my goat pictures that include Maggie, only this one would show up at this point. We'll cover that in detail, but again, that's what that second tab is here. So that is just a very quick overview of this workspace, and we're going to jump into it and actually use the same photos and practice this. So we're going to do that in the next video.